As Nigeria continues to battle food insecurity and mounting pressures of climate change, the sustenance and well-being of every citizen becomes a focus. In recent weeks, the conversation about GMO, better defined as genetically modified organisms, has resurfaced, with the federal government of Nigeria looking towards its national acceptance.
Now, this has met with stiff rejection from various society groups, citing health and socioeconomic issues associated with the importation, cultivation and consumption of GMO foods. Is the forceful adoption of GMOs in Nigeria a Western agenda, as some have insinuated, or are we looking at accepting what has been widely rejected by countries such as France, Germany, Austria, Greece, Hungary, the Netherlands and many others, all in the name of diplomatic ties and solution-driven steps to solving hunger crisis?
Well, our guest is dedicated to researching into new policies for Africa's development. Also, he is the Deputy Director, Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, CEFSAR, and advocate for food safety as well, with a view to improving organic and regenerative agriculture. Welcome, Dr. Segun Adebayo.
Thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Thank you. This whole conversation of GMOs, no GMOs, Nigerians seem to be divided. There are some who are saying they really don't understand what it is. So I think it's good that we start from there. Let's inform them. Let's help them understand what GMOs really are.
All right, thank you. So GMOs essentially are either plants or animals that have been modified at genome level, in other words, at the genetic level. And not just modified, in this case, we call them transgenic because you are looking at a transfer of genetic material from one organism to another. That means you're crossing the species barrier. So in the case of what we have here in Nigeria, especially with the GMO crops, that's currently raising the attention to this conversation, you have genes from a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis. These genes are insecticidal in nature. In other words, they repel pests, common pests. And these genes were taken from that soil bacteria and put into our food, the maize, the beans, and also cotton, because we have 3 approved GMOs for cultivation in Nigeria: cotton, beans, and maize. So this gene was taken from the soil bacteria and put into the crops.
To make it pest resistant.
Pest resistant. Now, there are also the genetically modified ones, they call them drought tolerant. And they say that these are done to withstand, climate change, as it were. And so when there's drought, you can still have these crops germinating. So that's basically essentially the definition of genetically modified crops. So what's raising the attention now is how safe are these crops, because currently there is no known long-term research to ascertain the safety of genetically modified crops anywhere in the world.
But that brings me to this question. Many countries in Europe,
right.
France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and others, have banned or restricted GMOs over safety and environmental concerns. Why then is Nigeria moving in the opposite direction? Are we missing something they saw? Is this a genuine fix or a dangerous shortcut towards food security?
The interesting thing is when you look at the countries that have banned it and why they banned it, we need to look at it one after the other, because there's a lot of lessons to learn from there. And this is what we encourage our decision makers, our policy makers to look into, not just the scientists. For instance, Germany is the home country of the parent organization that seems to own the license, the patent of most of the GMOs we have in Nigeria. The parent company is called Bayer, yes. And it's home to Germany. But it's banned in Germany. And one other thing that we don't always talk about is the fact that the GMOs have, I call it the twin. It's a chemical called glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, which is used on, it's used in the farms as a pesticide. Now, that chemical also, it goes hand in hand with the GMOs. Comes from Germany, and it's also banned in Germany, right? Austria banned GMOs because they said the risk assessment that was done is not sufficient to guarantee the health safety of its people.
Yeah, but then it's good enough to be exported to other countries or to be sold to African countries when they know that they've seen the risk assessment that, look, we can't onboard this thing because we're not 100% foolproof. It's not harmful to our people. But then, I mean, it's good enough for Africans and other people.
In fact, in Russia, you're a terrorist if you cultivate GMOs because it has the potentials of, gene contamination. Like a very popular example that we always use, not even an example, it's reality. If you have a GMO farm of maybe maize and you have an organic farm just close by, the genes, through cross-pollination, the ones from the GMO will cross-pollinate with your organic and sterilize it. The organic will take on the characteristics of the GMO. And you see, that's bioterrorism because you really can't control that gene transfer. Nature actually doesn't allow such gene transfer.
So are we playing God with this GMO engineering and the other ways to guarantee food security and improve crop yield? That's genetically altering and playing God with this situation. Because, I mean, I'm not very religious, but I think God is the ultimate designer. Everything has ways of correcting. There's a balance in the ecosystem.
The first time I ever had a conversation on GMOs, like I was ever going to be on a program, the first thing I said was very close to what you said. I said, when these scientists opened these crops or these animals, they made genes there. Who arranged the genes? Who put them there? Like you said, God. Now, do you know enough to start altering? Do like this. You take from here, you put here, and you put here, put here. You're going to, see, the risks are unforeseen. And you see that there's actually something called the Cartagena Protocol, which has in it a precautionary principle that if the risks, outweigh the gains, then you have to strike it out. And that's the reason why many countries actually didn't approve GMOs. So when you come home to Nigeria and you listen to the DG of NBMA talk about on national TV why we have GMOs in Nigeria. In fact, our opening statement was we need GMOs for food security. So the question is, okay, let's look at our challenges with food. We have reports, public reports, that Nigeria has 40% post-harvest losses. How will GMOs solve that? You ignore the elephant in the room. Post-harvest losses are biggest. No, that's not the biggest. One of the biggest, because I'm coming to the biggest. That's one of the biggest problems. If you can lose as high as 40%, then, if you solve that, that means you're adding to your food sufficiency.
Is the biggest one insecurity?
The biggest is insecurity. When we have reports of our farmers, look at the past administration. Just as Nigeria was celebrating that we're becoming rice sufficient, the next thing we saw in the news was 40 rice farmers shot dead on their farms. Then you're seeing in the news here and there. All our farmers are in the IDP camps. In Benue State, many of them are in the IDP camps. Many villages, look at all the places that we're having insecurity. We did a research in our center, and we found out that over 99%, 98.7% actually, percent of areas where we've had insecurity issues in this country have been famine regions, major famine regions. So when you ignore insecurity, you ignore post-harvest losses, then you ignore the economic realities. When you talk about food insecurity, have you ever been to the market and you didn't see food in the market? There is always food in the market. The question is, can the people afford it?
Afford it, yeah. Right.
Okay. You made reference to the NBMA, so let's go there. The Biosafety
National Biosafety
Management
Agency.
Agency, rather. But the act was signed into law 2015 during President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's time, and before then was sometime in 2004 that we signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. to understand and support GMOs. 10 years after this act was signed into law, it's 2025 now. There's a lot of noise about GMO. the past 10 years, what has been done? It seems like there was little or no criticism. And why are the critics louder in 2025 than they've been in the past 10 years?
They're louder because they saw Bill Gates on Okada. Yes, and there's a push.
Okay, let's say this. You see, this is science first.
Yeah.
And one of the major things that we have heard from the scientists who do these things, the biotechnologists, is they say, this is expert science. You're not supposed to talk about it. We are the only ones who are supposed to be able to speak on it. Literally, I've been in several debates with them. And that's one of the first things they say is, it's above you. So the question is, what I always tell them is this: look, everybody who eats is a stakeholder in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because you have rights to choose what you want to eat. So you cannot tell me that I am not. That means it's only the experts that should be eating the GMOs then. Let us eat the ones that we know. So if you come and you bring something for us to eat, then we should have to sit down and have that conversation. 10 years after the NBM was enacted, we did a survey on the internet the past 2 weeks. More than 98% of Nigerians are hearing of NBMA for the first time. Everybody thought it was NAFDAC. Everybody thinks it's NAFDAC. Now, most Nigerians are hearing that there's actually an organization called NBM. In fact, just yesterday, somebody was like, is this a real government organization? Because you're not aware. Something as important as this, your food. So the conversation has not been in the fore. There have been individuals that over time have tried to, start this conversation. You have the HOMEF, the architect Nimo Basi is an environmentalist, in fact, a very renowned one in Nigeria. You even have GRV and his wife, Ife Enebo. They've been talking about it for years. Then we got on it and we said, no, this thing now we have to knock it out of its roots. And this conversation has been on. But you know how our society is, we're always desensitized by what's trending and what have you. So this time around, why it's coming to the fore is because, a very renowned social media personality, he put up a video not supporting fully, but, he played in between. But he had, he tilted towards, he leaned towards, accommodating it, There was a time in his video he put, the good seeds are GMO and the bad seeds are your natural ones, And that's what everybody used to know, that this guy goes for the GMOs. And he's been someone who's seen several times as a health person, and he's seen several times with Bill Gates. So, and of course, we all know that Bill Gates is the major sponsor of this stuff here in Nigeria. So everybody just has to flip at some point, and that flipped the switch. And that conversation has raged on for about 2 weeks now, and it's not going to abate anytime soon.
Is there any positive side to GMOs? So
actually, sitting right here, if you tell me that GMOs, biotechnology is going to help make our roads stronger, I'll listen to you. If you tell me it's going to, you can actually do that. It's good you can use it for construction, you can use it for any other thing. But when it comes to food, we need to see the facts because it's what we eat. Because now there are researches to prove first. They will tell you that there is no known research to prove that GMOs cause cancer. But we have, first, Professor Seralini's research, where he fed mice. He fed them for a period of time, and they developed cancerous tumors. Later, there was a lot of hula baloo in the science community, of course, sponsored by the same guys who provide the seeds. There was a lot of hula baloo in the community, and then they said his research was skewed, and it was unpublished. Then produce yours. No one could. 2 years later, it was republished. And that research stands till date. Then we have other researches that show very strong correlation between GMOs and glyphosate. I must talk about glyphosate. GMOs and glyphosate showing strong correlation between between GMOs and glyphosate and the deterioration of health of people in America. Very strong research to show these things. There are several suppressed studies and researches to prove. In fact, there's one, if you just open your internet now and you search GMO corn infertility or GMO corn natural contraceptive, you'll see research dating as far back as year 2000 showing that GMO maize to be particular, contributes to, it's called a natural contraceptive. But these are researches that were discontinued, suppressed, but it calls for question because we are seeing a rise in certain kinds of diseases now. Yes, it's rising, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
and we need to start asking questions.
From cancer to the other and so on. But I just also want to highlight that the Director General of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, has been seen to be one of the persons also promoting the use of GMOs, saying it would help to solve Nigeria's food crisis. We've also seen a divide of a few persons, individuals, even those who many feel should be on the side of the people because they, in a way, affiliate with the government and they should be able to speak against such. Do you think this has a westernized coloration in pushing a narrative of either diplomacy or some form of, politicking, pressure? Because if you ask me from the top of my mind, I'm starting to think of, the Western world is saying you must accept the gay and lesbian rights, and we're saying no.
And Africa is mostly used as guinea pigs.
Do you see any of this?
Let me say this first. That organization, NABDA, where Professor Abdullahi is the DG as well, there is an appendage organization that, if you read their website, they will tell you it's under the auspices of NABDA. But the truth of the matter is this. That is an international organization. First, there is the African Agricultural Technology Foundation called AATF. Now, AATF is an international organization. Its mandate is to improve technology across Africa. Now, AATF looks and says, okay, I want to push my agenda across Africa. And then they now give birth to some smaller organizations called OFAB, Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnologists. And OFAB now has the mandate to spread the gospel, quote unquote, of GMOs across African countries. Then OFAB goes to Kenya, so you have what you call OFAB Kenya. Then OFAB comes to Nigeria, and then you have OFAB Nigeria. Then OFAB, imagine OFAB comes into the airport and is looking, okay, so where do I go from here? I'm in Nigeria. Then he says, okay, which agency? Then it goes to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Then which department, which agency in the Ministry of Science and Technology? NABDA, where Professor Abdullahi is. Then it goes there. Then like you have this tick, this insects that you see on dogs, then it leaches itself on NABDA.
I mean, once you get the regulatory agencies.
Then the country director of the OFAB project becomes a federal government staff.
Wow.
And currently is the deputy director of that organization where Professor Abdullahi is.
He can't be neutral. He's already compromised.
That individual is also the head of department of Nigerian Agricultural Biotechnology Department in NABDA. So you have a foreign organization. So now you're talking about foreign influence here. You have a foreign organization successfully leeching on our Ministry of Science and Technology and also the department responsible for research and development on science and technology, on GMOs, biotechnology, and it doesn't end there. That Professor Abdullahi's organization, NABDA, sits on the board of the regulators, NBME.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Check it out.
I mean, it would be nice to also follow the monitor because it takes a lot of financial muscle to pull this off. There's a Chinese proverb that says you can dig your grave with your teeth. So we need to be careful about what we consume. Let's talk about solutions. Dr. Adebayo, you've advocated for organic and regenerative agriculture. Could you explain that? And given the current state of our food system, how viable is this approach in comparison to the government's push for GMOs?
All right, so first, I wouldn't say the government's push for GMOs because I wouldn't say the government's push policy, because it's actually official policy, but this administration is yet to actually take a definite stand on GMOs. GMOs came from Jonathan's era, and then 2019 the MDMA Act was rejigged, was amended, and then some more enablements were given to this thing. So solutions. First, the solutions have always been the solutions that was given to humanity from time immemorial. Regenerative agriculture. Like I would call it, it's the only Ponzi scheme that works. You put a seed in the ground, a grain of maize. You drop it in the ground, and then it gives you a whole, plant. And then you can take everything from there, and then you can divide. You can decide, I will consume 50%, and I will replant 50%. And then that means you can actually use that one to convert it to a whole farm, if you wish. Not what we currently have now, that has been programmed. In fact, I tell people, you're eating technology. You're eating somebody's technology. It's not even your technology. It's not even the one God gave humanity. It's somebody's technology. He has decided that this thing will have 2 lifespans. And then from the seed breeders to the seed companies, it uses a lifespan. Then from the seed company to the farmers, it uses another lifespan. And then from the farmers, you plant it just gives you what they call grains, and then, the thing is lifeless. So you have to come back to the, you have to go back
to there's a dependence there.
But they have
it creates, because it's business. Look,
I have an
everybody has a right to do business. And that is his business.
And how true is it? I mean, I have a family member who had gotten tomatoes, and I heard that once you plant it, it's done. The soil is affected
again on the
as well. Then you have to get the same seed and come back again.
Yeah, that's
so it's like the OS.
So let me speak about something that's happened in Nigeria, because now you're looking at how bad is it. There's a lot of things they call conspiracy theories. It's an easy sell to say it's a conspiracy theory, but I mean, if anybody who can spend as little as 5 minutes to check the internet, you would even see that this thing is not, it's what it is. So in Nigeria here, cotton was the first to be approved in Nigeria. And in a Business Day report on the 23rd of September last year, the cotton farmers in Nigeria came together. In fact, their association, they came together to say that 6 years after introduction of the GMO cotton, the seeds have failed to increase the cotton yield per hectare and revive the dying industry. I spoke to this particular individual myself, the president of this association, and he said to me that when the thing started, they used to sell the seeds to them at 15,000 naira per kilogram. Now it's currently, as of last year when I spoke to him, it was 55,000 naira per kilogram. And he says it's now the big men that go into cotton farming. Who to plant on an acre is you need 4 kilograms. So that's 220,000 naira for just the seeds alone, which you're going to have to buy at the next planting season. And as little as 2 minutes Google search or whatever search engine you want to use, Yandex, DuckDuckGo, anyone, you would see that this same cotton, the same seed sellers in 2011 admitted the failure of their seeds. And this failure, this very company admitted it. And in India, you will see reports of more than 300,000 farmers that committed suicide because of GMO cotton. Yeah. And then you go to Burkina Faso, our neighbor not too far away, had the same experience, rejected it. It was giving them inferior lint. And one of the things they said in Burkina Faso was that, after farming, after harvesting, all the stock, they cut it, leave it there for mulching, and so it decomposes and adds to the soil nutrients. And all. The stalks didn't decompose in Burkina Faso. It was just there. So now, our cotton farmers came out last year to report the same thing, that the seeds are now very expensive, and also they reported a damage to the soil. That when we purchase the seeds, Musa said no other plant has been able to germinate on the farmlands where the GM seeds were planted, even after 4 years.
Wow. So then the government has a responsibility to protect Nigerians.
So now, here's the thing. Anybody can actually write this article. Anybody can. The association can come together, and of which they did, to make this report on the internet. And it's out there, our own platforms, our own newspaper houses, local to us, indigenous to us. The question is this. No, not the question. In February 1st, I wrote a letter personally, and I took that letter myself to the NBMA office in Abuja, and I highlighted these concerns of the cotton farmers. And I said, based on these concerns, and I wrote, the global trend with cotton, what has happened in other climates, and I said, you have to look into this. Months later, nothing has happened. So the question we want to now ask the NBMA is after you saw this report,
What have you done?
done?
Okay, in 10 seconds, is it, how many crops, I mean, is there as large an influx of GMO products in Nigeria? Because there are already speculations and controversies about, oh, I bought tomato and pepper, it was in my fridge for 2 months, it didn't get bad. So how much of a concern is it now?
So unregulated, what we know is that there are GMO cotton, cowpea, that's beans, and maize officially. But our borders, we don't know what's going on. We don't even have, I don't think NBMA is proactive enough to really assess the level of GMOs in Nigeria. And GMOs shouldn't also be mistaken for hybrids. There are certain hybrids that are seedless, but then again, they are just cousins. If you can't replant the hybrids, then it's as useless as the GMOs.
For example, those seedless
all those seedless stuff, they're all hybrids, and I mean, they're not natural. Sometimes you have to just, not even sometimes, you have to stay away from the hybrids, and we should also discourage having a lot of hybrids. We should have the regenerative seeds that we can always replant, and anybody can have food sovereignty. Our country will have food sovereignty, and anyone who plants, like the First Lady is encouraging the Every Home a Garden. I'm personally a part of that project. I encourage it, I support it. Every home should have a garden. I mean, the winner of that Every Home a Garden was farming in a 3-bedroom flat in a room and in a corridor, and she won it, producing cucumbers, producing tomatoes, and many other things. I've met her personally. I've seen her stuff. So if the First Lady encourages it, and anybody can have food security, then we're good.
The problem is how many people have the land to do
I
this
think
thing?
I'm just going to be drinking water and suya to the other safe side.
Suya may also be GMO suya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Segun Adebayo.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We look forward to have you again.
All right.